So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session where we are going to actually share with you how to take your security practice to the next level and share details on partner programs, resources. So Harish is a sales strategy lead, and I'm from the partner marketing side. So both of us will be co-hosting this session, and we will bring in on the stage a couple of experts on this area and also share with you some of the details that the Partner of the Year for EMS actually talked about in terms of security. So let's talk about this partnering with Microsoft and look at all the opportunities that we have available to capitalize. So let's look at the customer base that we have. We have tens and thousands of customers in our base at the moment. And what we are trying to do is looking at all the Fortune 500 companies which have already gone into cloud, and some of them are in the mixed mode where they are hybrid in nature. So what we are looking at is the whole ecosystem of customers and figuring out how, as partners, you can play a role in that area. The other most important opportunity for us is we have been hearing and we have been seeing a trend that security has been playing a very major role in this area. So we are trying to leverage your expertise and partner with you to build that entire ecosystem in such a way that we both gain out of that partnership. The other main reason why you should actually partner with us is about our one complete platform-based solution that we have. It is an end-to-end solution, and which is very consistent across different platforms. Think of Windows, think of iOS, think of Android. We have solutions which span across all of them, and the infrastructure, apps, devices, data, everything can be broadly accessed, protected in terms of security. And we have real big capabilities in terms of profitabilities and competitive solutions available to all of us. One of the biggest thing that Microsoft has done is investment in partners. So we have invested in various go-to-market opportunities for us, and that spans to about $640 million. The other one important thing that we have now combined is a one commercial partner team, which will be the single team that you will be interacting with, making the conversation very easier and making sure that we have the right connections and the right kind of assistance built into the whole ecosystem. One of the important investment that we wanted to also share with you is about the investment in all the improvements and the feedback that you continue to provide us in terms of Fast Track and other programs that we have in place. You have also been providing a lot of feedback in terms of other investments that you would like us to go into. So we are taking all of that feedback and we have been continuously working towards all of that. So typically I wanted to open this forum and share with you what is available in terms of opportunities for partners at large. And in FY18, we are continuing to invest and continuing to grow that ecosystem in such a way that we both leverage from that whole partnership that we have. Now, after sharing what Microsoft has for you and what is there for you in Microsoft, let's now look at this whole security ecosystem and find out how we can help you take this entire security practice to the next level. At the moment, I don't want to scare you. I want to share with you some of the key market facts, what's going on in the industry. So the cloud revolution is continuing, and it is becoming a big evolution in itself, which all of us have been observing. And the recent malware attacks, the ransomware attacks, the WannaCry, WannaCrypt, something that happened recently, all of that has been kind of alarmingly creating a lot of spur in the whole ecosystem. So what we thought was, let's look at this whole ecosystem and see where the gaps are and where Microsoft and us can actually figure out ways to bridge that gap. So the first point over here is about hacking. So based on industry facts, what we figured out is 81% of all the hacking breaches is typically because of passwords being stolen or very weak passwords in the system. one of the very scary moments at present, definitely. Another thing which we thought was, if we have to recover from this whole breach situation, we end up spending about $17 million, and that's the average cost. And this is just a US-specific information based on the industry research again. Then we actually looked at what is the security landscape, like where can we together partner and come and see, like, what is that gap that we can bridge together. So we figured out that there is a 3.5 million job opening that is predicted by the cybersecurity jobs report that just released in the month of March. So that's a huge opportunity for us. And definitely Microsoft cannot work by itself to fill and bridge all that. Then the next thing which we thought was, how are all the cloud service providers, the hybrid companies, all of them implementing their solution and looking at technology spend for security in itself. So we figured out that the IDC report states that it's about $81.7 billion, so which is a humongous number. So my intent was not to scare you with all of this facts, but it is actually to showcase to you that this is not a scary moment, but this is a huge golden opportunity for us all in this ecosystem to grab. How can we work together? How can we actually figure out what solution actually works for you all, for Microsoft, and for us together to come up with a neat end solution? So how does Microsoft play in this whole ecosystem? So Microsoft has a unique positioning in terms of security deliveries. So what it has is a bunch of valuable opportunities and uniqueness in what it offers. So I'll just take you through a couple of key levers, and then we will look at how we actually need to go in that direction and bridge this whole scenario. So first, unique differentiator, probably you heard this multiple times, is about the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graphs. So what that graph does is, it is a single place where all the Microsoft signals about the different applications that we have is collected. So it comes from the 200 plus services that Microsoft has to offer. So one of the common things that we have seen in this area is with identity protection. So very simple. Somebody actually is trying to accidentally do something on the identity space. Immediately the risk score increases. And it kind of starts reporting, and you can monitor that there's some kind of vulnerability somewhere. And this intelligent graph is able to predict that whole behavior itself. So this is something which we capitalize on, and this is a very unique offering from Microsoft. The other very unique offering that we have is for this whole entire partner ecosystem, which is we have a bunch of partner-focused programs and a lot of resources in terms of training, in terms of partner practice enablement, all the foundations that help you actually become experts in that area, differentiate yourself. So that's another key differentiator. The most important and the for security option that we offer in terms of a fully integrated solution is through these 4 concrete pillars that we have. So we call them as the 4 security pillars. So the first one is about identity and access management, which makes it very clear that we have a limited access, or we have the capability through our services to limit access to the organizational assets. So what it does is the right people have the access to the right amount of information. It's not a general public access that is spread wide across the organization. We have those products out there listed: Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, the conditional access, the Windows credential, the Windows credential guard, all of that actually playing a very vital role in the identity and access management space. The second pillar of security is about information protection. So when you look at information protection, we are talking about documents, data, and emails that are actually only viewed by the intended recipients. Very important, like I cannot just go ahead and send something which is a restricted information to someone who's not supposed to receive. So who helps us, or what are the services that help us in that area? The first one is about Azure information protection. We have Office data loss prevention. We have Windows information protection. So if you're seeing a trend over here, we are not coming across as one service. We are actually looking at a whole portfolio of services which will work together and create that one common story, which is about protecting the information in the enterprise. So how does Azure information protection work in that area? What it does actually is classifies the data. It calls out highly confidential, general, public, restricted access. All of those classifications are available, and you can add to the metadata file more classifications based on your organizational needs and call them out. So what it does is, like if somebody is trying to accidentally download a document from SharePoint, copy and paste some confidential information into another personal mail or something similar to that, what it does is it immediately stops the user from clicking on the information and just disables the copy paste option. So you can configure something at that level for different users and make it very protected. So your environment is completely protected and your information remains where it should, and it persists right over there. The third pillar is about the threat protection, which is about identifying like where the hackers are, how they have come into the system, and if by chance they attacked, there is an easy way to thwart the whole thing and recover from that scenario. So we have advanced threat analytics. So it analyzes the whole situation and throws out a bunch of intelligent reports. And then it talks about a bunch of like other products where we want to actually look at the same analysis. So Office advanced threat protection, the Windows Defender advanced threat protection, all of that actually work together in the threat protection pillar and help us solve the enterprise-wide solution. The last but not the least is all about management. So I've been talking all through about all the different services that play a vital role. But if I'm just managing, I just want to see the health of my system, I need a place to go to where I can actually gain the end-to-end visibility into our entire security policies, which can be managed at one single point. So for example, if I have a domain and I want a group of users to be provided with a set of policies around it, I will go to the security center, I will manage the profiles and make sure that all the users and a particular user group in a particular domain have a certain set of access. So it's kind of a central management portal or an option that you see, or an admin console, if I may want to call that. And that is available for Azure Active Directory. It's available as part of Azure itself. So it starts predicting a red, yellow, green status of your application or your user or your data access policies that you have implemented, and kind of recommends like, hey, go and do this so that you can protect the environment completely. So it's kind of a predictive, it's a protect, detect, respond, if I want to kind of, call it in that cycle. The end-to-end visibility of this whole solution is available right there. So this is one of our unique, fully integrated security solutions. So these are our three very important levers that we are capitalizing on, and we are hoping that we can work with you in this field, in this area, and figure out the market opportunities that we actually talked about just now and bridge the entire gap. As we speak about this, what I'm actually going to call out is our winner of the Enterprise Mobility Partner of the Year Award, Glück Kanja. They are a Germany-based company. And what they have done is they have actually strengthened this whole security ecosystem seamlessly in this cloud-first, mobile-first ecosystem. And what they did is they have actually used the capabilities around Intune. They have used the capabilities around Windows. And they have used a bunch of Microsoft stack all around the place and made sure that the entire ecosystem is working together and the whole security story is end-to-end. So I would like to show you a video, and we can look at what they have to say.
Glück Kanja is a Microsoft partner for more than 20 years now. We are one of the cloud and communication partners of Microsoft in Germany. Our company has a strong focus on security.
We saw first the opportunities of the productivity solutions for the cloud, but a lack of security solutions at all for the cloud story. A big challenge for our customers to get the security on all their different devices and operating system and in all of their branches. The future workplace it's the future of the infrastructure and the productivity workspace ecosystem for all companies and their productivity workers.
It's a way how people can enable cloud technology without any change on-premise. You can leverage the modern stacks from Microsoft like the Windows 10 client. You can use Intune technology to manage and moderate these clients. And actually we no longer image or install clients, we just enable and provision them, and this is solving all the boundaries you had in the past, and there's no hybrid involved to this, so just pure cloud.
The future workplace combines the Microsoft Azure Active Directory and Microsoft Intune to deploy clients all over the world without any pre-requirements locally.
The security stacks really helps us because it's like a huge tool set.
The SPE E5, the Secure Productive Enterprise E5, is a whole suite of all the entire security stack on top of the normal productivity tools at Microsoft. And with these security tools, we have a special enabler in all the discussions about cloud security.
We are pretty spoiled with success as a Microsoft partner, but the pace we are seeing these days for going cloud and the interest in the market to learn more about our cloud approach, it's really huge.
We have a strong partnership with Microsoft for many years, and I think we established a really good relationship here.
So that was our Security Partner of the Year for EMS landscape, and we'll continue with this Security Foundation because they talked about this whole security ecosystem, how to build this foundation around security with all the various products that we have. So I'll now take you through this competency building foundation that helps us to become a different or leverage our potential to show us as somebody with a robust set of, unique and powerful standing out in this whole solution area. So when I differentiate ourselves, we are looking at different things in this area. So one of the major components that we want to focus on is the capability in itself. So what we have done this coming year is we have built partner practice scenarios around the 4 capability areas. And then we are focusing on each of those areas by giving you or providing you with a different set of training and readiness tools. There are different marketing programs, and there are different sales and deployment programs available, which you can actually partner with us and take advantage of all those opportunities over there. I want to just take you quickly through the capabilities over here. The enterprise level identity protection is typically dependent on the organizational data management, policies, prevention, which we talked about as part of the identity and access management. It's focused on that area. The controlling and protect information scenario, or the partner capability scenario, is focused on Azure information protection and the Windows information protection and all of the Office data loss prevention areas. And it has a bunch of partner scenarios which are focused on data, app, and devices. Then there's a regulatory compliance angle, which probably all of you must have attended a number of sessions which called out and focused on GDPR, or the European regulation, which is actually compelling all of us to run quickly towards a secure solution and have data persistent in Europe for all the global companies that are operating out there. And then the 4th partner scenario is all about proactive attack detection and prevention. So if you look at it, it's again the protect, detect, respond. That's the kind of life cycle we are looking at over here. The other angle that we want to actually talk about over here for all of us is the credibility. We can always train you, we can actually give you a lot of programs, like there is no easy way for us to reach out to all of you all. So our intent is to have as many connections, direct programs with you, like, training programs with you. And in addition, we're also trying to do a lot of web-based programs so that, we have these training modules available to you so that you become the expert in that area. But end of the day, there is an industry certification requirement which actually kind of, stamps and calls it out saying that, hey, we are the best. So we are looking at building the foundation with some industry credible certifications like CISSP. We are still going through the process of evaluating which one fits us in that area. And we are also thinking of bringing in new exams to make you experts in that area. So that's the plan. And what we are trying to do is we're going to bring on board a few of y'all, the like-minded people, so that we can get feedback from you and work on an offer on a pilot basis first to see if that is what is going to work, and then roll it out as a proper programmatic competency. So it doesn't make sense to roll out something and then keep working on improvements. Instead, we thought some people who are already in that game, let's actually work with them and take their feedback and build something which is really good in the industry. So that's building the foundation on security. And we have all those various resources that I've called out over there, which you can leverage and make sure that you are becoming an expert and standing out as a subject matter expert in that area. So continuing this partner impact, because that's all we are doing over here is trying to find out who's moving forward, who's building their capabilities in security. I am going to actually invite James and Emilio from Cloud. They are Cloud, spelled with a K, from Australia, who will take us through a quick journey on their security area.
A round of applause for
Thank you.
They traveled all the way from Australia to get here. Thank you, guys.
Can you hear me? You got me? Yeah, well, thank you. James Lewis, so I'm from Cloud, Cloud with a K or K-Loud or all those sort of things. We get lots of different names. We're not too precious. But I run the New South Wales business, so thank you to the Microsoft guys for the opportunity to come and talk to you today about a little bit about our business, about our security practice and how we've sort of evolved, I guess, over the 6 years that we've been in business. My colleague Amelia, you can introduce yourself if you like.
Hi guys, hope you hear me okay. Emilio Prente, I'm account manager at Cloud Solutions based in Melbourne, Australia. And great to be here today. So we'll take you through a bit of our journey in terms of how we've evolved our security practice, some of the challenges we've faced, but how we're looking to mature our model over time as well. Thank you.
So I'd start off just to talk a little bit about business, opportunity to plug ourselves and let you guys all know about us. So we're a full-service consultancy business. So we've been around for 6 years. And in that time, we've grown to over 200 people in 6 years. We were recently acquired by Telstra, which is a large telco in Australia, but we still operate as a fully wholly owned subsidiary of Telstra. We've built a very close relationship with Microsoft. A few of our founders were ex-Microsoft employees. And you can see that we have a number of competencies there, gold partners. In fact, Glück Kanja beat us out this year for the Enterprise Mobility Partner of the Year, and deservedly so as well. They're a great company as well. So we very much started as an Office 365 and a BPOS type partner. We got into the market at the right time, and we moved a lot of mailboxes to the cloud and all of that sort of stuff very successfully. And then what we did was we sort of listened to our customers, and as the market moved and evolved, we started to build out our capability areas. And one of the things I think that we're seeing a lot in the market in Australia is around cybersecurity. We've obviously heard a lot around recent ransomware attacks and all of those sort of things. But even before that, a number of our customers, they've moved all of their workloads to the cloud and they're all happy and what have you. But then they start, as they're moving more and more sensitive information into the cloud, their security teams and their compliance people are very much starting to have a closer look at some of the security controls around that. So based on that, we made the decision to invest in some of the security practice and start to pull that together and build that out a little bit. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Just a couple of other little stats. So one of the things that we're very proud of at Cloud is around community, and even the opportunity to come and share our story with you today is sort of along those lines. So we run a number of user groups across Australia in Azure and Office 365 and those sort of platforms. And we also run a blog, so I'll shamelessly plug our blog. So if you haven't had a look at it already, then I encourage you to. We get over 100,000 views, unique visitors to our blog every month. And we usually have 20 or 30 articles from all of our different consultants talking about the various challenges and what have you. And you can filter on security and EMS and what have you in there and read the stories around what our guys are doing there. We're based all over Australia, and probably most importantly, we work with some of the largest companies within Australia and some of the most complex environments. So the security that we're doing, we do find that we get challenged by a lot of the traditional security people within those customers who, are used to having a nice enterprise perimeter, and then once you start to put things out around that, it's around the different way of thinking around how you secure things when they're in the cloud and the different challenges. So over our experience, we've sort of had some good learnings around how we can help customers in that space. Did you want to chat through?
Yeah, so just briefly just take you through a little bit the transformation discussions that we have with customers, and as part of this, we'll segue more into the security practice that we're building at Cloud as well. So top left, talking about digital workplace. That's really now moving more into that Windows 10 deployment. But how do you secure your environments? How do you ensure the underlying infrastructure and foundational pieces, we like to call it, are built appropriately? So, and Azure Active Directory is actually becoming more prominent in conversations. And particularly in Australia, and you've probably seen it with your own customers as well, is that ability to connect to external customers, so the community, and being able to manage those IDs effectively as well. To the right-hand side, business applications. So it's really now harnessing the powers of those applications. So we're seeing a lot more of the web-based applications being provisioned and deployed into the Azure platform. So that whole ability to be able to secure that application is becoming really important. So governance and policies is now starting to come a little bit more into our conversations with customers too. Down on the bottom right-hand side, enterprise mobility, we all know about that. So that sort of ties a little bit into the digital workspace elements. But we're seeing now customers move a lot more into that arena in terms of how they secure their enterprise, but make it more mobile friendly. So we're seeing a lot more work into that space as well. And as a segue into the next slide, we'll talk a bit more about security, is that the identity and security practice that we run as well. So we started with Office 365 and as BPOS used to be known, but we found customers really want to start securing their platforms, and identity became a key foundational component of that. But now we're starting to have more of those conversations about cloud-based identity, cloud-based security. How do you protect those contents that are actually now being shared with external providers and partners? So I've seen a lot more about that as well.
And I guess that just sort of ties all of those capability areas together is around our cloud transformation and our cloud strategy piece. So we have consultants that will go in, and depending on where customers are up to in their journey to the cloud, some people are quite mature and they want some guidance and advice around a specific workload or a specific area. Other customers are very much at the beginning of their journey, so that they need help building out roadmaps and building out plans to get there. So using our experience and our expertise, we can kind of really help to expedite some of those customers' transformations. And I guess lastly, that sort of the area of our business that underpins all of those things is our managed service business. Now, managed service business, we try to provide a proactive managed service. And we, similar to the vendors that are selling the products, we try to, we do provide a consumption-based model around that. So as customers, they ramp up and they ramp down, they have the flexibility with working with us to change their billing patterns around that. And obviously security and bringing security expertise and resources into that managed service practice is sort of key to that. Cool. So just talking about a little bit just around how we've sort of approached building our practice, and just looking at some of the market trends, I guess, in Australia, and it's no surprise there. And I think one of the realisations for me, listening to the keynotes and just being here in Washington, is that many of the same challenges that you guys are facing around the world are similar to what we're facing in Australia. And as I mentioned before, these are the sort of things that were driving us to pull together a security practice in the first place. So GDPR, I mean, if you didn't know about GDPR before you came here to Washington, then I don't think you'll go home without having a bit more of an understanding. And I think there's a lot of customers who just aren't aware of their obligations. And, you know, we're happily sitting down under on the other side of the world, oblivious to, you know, some of those requirements. So, you know, as those European regulations and the dates and things come in, there's going to be a lot of a sharper focus around that. And, you know, we're building some capability to be able to help our customers with initially with the conversations and then looking around some of the advisory and some of the, you know, guidance around how they can protect themselves against that, how they can move their workloads into the Microsoft platform so that they can be protected. Ransomware email, I think, who was at the keynote this morning? I mean, it was quite an interesting stat to say that I think like 90% of the ransomware attacks were generated through an email link. And even simple things like enabling MFA, we had a customer that had quite a large, you know, internal ransomware outbreak. And we were able to quite rapidly shut that down by just enabling, you know, we were in the process of enabling MFA, but just accelerating that process. And it went from being a really big deal to being not a problem sort of overnight. So again, I'll reiterate Brad's comments, but you know, MFA is such a simple thing to be able to enable, and really it's more around change and adoption, you know, getting that into place for your customers. Web apps we talked about a little bit before, and I think that's, you know, the challenge there is customers are moving more and more of their apps, you know, from their on-premise and the traditional server client models into Azure and leveraging, you know, like the PaaS and even the IaaS services. So, you know, when we're replatforming those apps, one of the key things that we need to think about is how do we secure those apps differently, you know, when they're being connected from, you know, mobile devices, from other partners, from, you know, all sorts of different sources and from different geographies around the world. And then last, I guess, but not least, and it's no surprise again, you know, IoT devices and security around those. You know, there's a proliferation of devices, and how do you keep those physical devices secure and all the other elements around IoT.
All right, so I'll speak briefly just on the right-hand side about challenges. So building our practice didn't come without challenges. So, and you'll probably face the same sort of challenges we have as well. And a couple of those were really related to the breadth and scope of the landscape. So understanding the customer security landscape. Now, to be honest, you know, we're not a security expert in everything, and we don't pretend to be. So, you know, we sort of found a niche that we specialised in, and really sort of grew that. So, resourcing and skills. You know, there's gaps that we've actually identified, and we're trying to, you know, improve that and build our practice. But in general, in the market, we see that there actually is a gap in skills and resources for this, you know, for the security practices that we're building. So,
and I think a lot of our guys just had traditional security, like secure by design and infrastructure-focused security, and that's great for a certain amount of the work that we used to do. Our customers are asking us for more expertise. So in terms of building our capability and investing in that, we've really started to get people that we wouldn't have traditionally hired into our business. So the challenge with that is getting them across the Microsoft stuff, but being able to talk the language of some of our customer security teams, no longer dealing with just the infrastructure teams and that sort of thing. So that's the real challenge, is finding the right people that can, you know, the right security focused people that can come into the business and help you with that.
Yeah, and the other challenge we faced as well is customers in different geographies. So we deal with a lot of multinational organisations, and I've got one at the moment. So multinational, one of the large 4 accounting firms. You know, they have different security policies and posture depending on which geographical location you're in. So whether if it's Europe, you've got different regulatory requirements and so forth. So the way we grew and the way we actually started to mature our practice was working closely with the customer, but getting a lot more involved in the policy discussions and helping to frame those discussions with the right people within the business to get a better understanding in terms of how we can influence some of their decisions. So that was actually quite a good learning exercise for us. That was actually a long-term engagement as well. And so we've now built a lot more of that maturity over time as well.
Yeah, so look, just in terms of learnings, I think, you know, born in the cloud, so we mentioned that and people talk about that a lot, but in some ways that's our strength. So a lot of our customers we've been working with for, you know, the last 5 or 6 years on their journey into Office 365 and those things. So we sort of use that to an advantage, and we're thinking to ourselves as an organisation, Office 365, what's next, and I think very much, like I mentioned before, a lot of our customers have moved things into the cloud. They're starting to move more and more things in there, and now is that really good time for some of our customers to come back and have a checkpoint and say, well, what are we doing about security? Where has the platform moved from when we first moved onto it? And then being able to come back and do some of that assessment and some of that assurance type work, and even strengthen that footprint and help the customers get more out of the platform, be able to put more data into the platform and build more applications on the platform. I think that very much, our learnings has been that, there's an opportunity now there to lead with security. And I think anyone hearing about Microsoft 365 and hearing about the new Secure Protective Enterprise, well, that's the old version, but it's around leading with security, and customers will move to those platforms to get those security benefits that are either too expensive or too complex for them to be able to build themselves within their own environment. And like I said, a few years ago we would never lead with security. But in saying that, I mean, security is a big, broad area. So I would encourage you to look at your customer base, find the areas around security that they're interested in, and don't try and, boil the ocean and bite off more than you can chew. Just focus on one of those areas, do that really, really well, and then build out and expand on those areas. Another learning around identity, security and governance. Identity is the foundation of everything that we put into the cloud, and a lot of the improvements around identity and identity governance and attestation and access revalidation and some of those elements around security, you don't always think about them. Microsoft's expanding their relationships with third-party providers to be able to build really powerful tools there to manage an end-to-end life cycle of an identity, and then be able to do things like user access revalidation and attestation checks that if you tried to go and build that for yourselves in the existing environments, it would be costly and impractical. And again, another learning is just around that ability to have the end-to-end consulting approach. So a lot of our customers like a consultative-based approach. They like to, go and listen to their requirements, understand what they need, and then be able to put together a solution that's not necessarily just around security, but around the whole platform. And I think, like Radhika was saying before, around that whole security ecosystem, and being able to pull that into our solutions is going to be key for us in those areas.
Yeah, so based on these learnings, I think what it's done for us and potentially for you guys as well is really start opening the door and start presenting some opportunities. So in terms of from cloud, the modern workplace, particularly around Office 365 or now Microsoft 365, has really opened up opportunities from a security point of view as well. And so what that means now is that we're starting to have security and governance and controls at the forefront of our conversations with customers. And even the way we engage with customers, the way we even form some of our contracts with customers is now shaped more towards having upfront security and governance engagements that therefore leads to them having the adequate policies and procedures in place as well. So that presents opportunities for us to do some security assessments up front as well, and not do that at the tail end. We've actually seen that happen early on in the piece, and we quite often find that there's some rework that might need to be done, or the right people weren't engaged, or the right stakeholders weren't engaged from a security standpoint. So that's really important for us, and we're seeing that now presents a great opportunity for us to actually increase some of the work we do with customers at the same time. Application security, so I'm not sure you guys, but we're seeing a lot of traction with WAFs, appliance firewalls, particularly in Azure, so we're seeing that start to ramp up. So as customers are migrating workloads to the cloud, they're now looking at how they can utilise WAFs to actually secure some of their own internal data. So I've got a very large water utility in Victoria who's actually going down this very track on Azure and wanting to protect internal data to an external source that is completely unknown, completely untrusted. And that's not customers, that's another partner that they're working with. But their whole view is how do we actually protect that data internally? But again, it comes back to early discussion up front, understand the governance and policies, and how do we help them actually then provision that environment moving forward. So great opportunities, and I think it's the same for you guys as well. So on behalf of James and myself, really like to thank you for allowing us to present today, and I'm happy to kick back for another 10 minutes after this. And
Yeah, we'll be
have a chat
around,
with
so if
Nancy.
anyone has
Yeah.
any questions, then by all means, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as we move forward in this journey, inspired that you are all here. So thank you again for the time that you have invested in Inspire. Thank you for the time again in this session. My objective in my section is to ensure that you are accelerating your business with security at a faster pace. I'm Harish. I've spent about 12 years in Microsoft in various parts of the business, in the field, in geos. In the last 3 years, I've been looking after the sales strategy for our mobility and security business. There are 3 things I really want to emphasize in my section over here. The first is, or what we heard from Cloud and what Radhika said is, when you have the practice of how do you really accelerate this practice. The second is to ensure that the practice comes with the right kind of competency, the right kind of solutions that you want to choose depending on the customer sets that you have. And the third is ensuring that the customers go ahead and deploy whatever they have actually made an investment to purchase based on the value proposition of the seats. That's the 3 things. In the next 20 minutes, I want to ensure that I have covered this, and I'm hoping that I will try and cover, and we can have question and answers in the end. So the first part is actually, when we start this whole journey, you've heard about the various scary positions that is there in the market. Now, I want to take a positive posture out of it to ensure that we are, let me build this slide up. It's much easier to see this. Anyway. The intelligent security graph, if you see, is a combination and a complete anonymous way of collecting all the various data sets that emerge from various different points, from endpoints coming out from the customers, or it could be coming out from the multiple sets that are there from devices, that are there from emails, that are there from the billions of web pages, and these form trillions of data sets, data points that actually come up to become and show that's of value to the CISO of saying that what is the position and what is the current posture of this security. Now, it may look as a threat, but actually to tell you the position we take in Microsoft to bring in front of our customers is that we try and bring this as a place that we have a solution and we build a good framework for you of how you can tackle this. And that's why I said it's a posture that you look at it and how you approach it. In fact, every day the way we train and we have discussions with our sales community is to tell them of how we can provide a solution and not go to our customers and tell them that let's have a very scary discussions. That's not what we are here for. So if you have heard our chief security person, people like Ann Johnson speaking, if some of you who know Ann Johnson, she would always continue to say that how are we positively positioned to be in front of our customers and how well we are going to be positioned with you in the journey to provide those kind of a solution. So the intelligent security graph is a great conversation starter. It's usually very valuable when you're having those discussions with your CISOs and bring it in a way that you can land those solutions with your customers. Now, a lot has been discussed about Microsoft 365. The breadth of its offerings, right from the way you handle with Microsoft 365, with Office 365 in the productivity side, with the Windows 10 to help enable all the devices and all the hardware out there, and with enterprise mobility and security. They really roll out to 4 different streams that you'll see over there, which provides the different kinds of the value that brings to the customer. In our discussion today, we focus on the last point over there, which is really the intelligent security. You saw when Radhika showed the 4 pillars of intelligent security, how that further breaks down. And that is really what we want to build, that whole security value to your customers. That is where we are saying that how do you really look at building that competency and the capability that you can drive with your customers. in fact, to do that, and if you build that whole sales chart of how do you go ahead, identify your customers. You saw a great example of how cloud does it. They were talking about the opportunities. And that really starts at where you want to build your whole demand generation engine, and then take it down into how you want to drive value and drive the usage. This is the point I was saying, how do you really take to accelerate your sale, accelerate your momentum with your customers. Now, there are various ways you can do it. Either you can go deep or you can go wide. We have seen our partners driving a higher value with their customers when they get into a managed service provider. As you become a managed service provider, you're obviously offloading the technical capability at your customers and then bringing that technical capability into your organization and let the customers do its best business value. That's where we have seen a lot of interest going there. To do that, there are tons of partners who have done that. I can take names across. And to do that, it is a journey. If you as a partner ecosystem are between different maturity cycles, that means as you're starting a practice versus you're having a very mature practice, that's where we have seen the managed services really going up and above. The second is to differentiate as a partner, what is your offering? So what are your offerings? With the whole security offerings that we have, we really help you to take one value, price value, and drive those 4 different sets of value that you saw earlier. That is what we say is one particular commercial offering with Microsoft 365. You can differentiate your offerings and provide one single value in terms of one single set of SKU to drive that whole kind of impact to your customers. The third is, if you are on the Office 365 business, the security and the Windows business would be a natural follow-through. If you were in Julia White's session yesterday, there was a very good discussion about how security leads the momentum, and there was a little train that in the end that was really showing how it accelerates. That was just a pictorial representation, but that's how we help you to increase your competency. So from a very much, let's say, having a productivity discussion, you're really accelerating to drive more of the security part of it, or it could even be vice versa. So 3 components really to help increase the dollar value. Second is to how do you differentiate yourself as a partner in trying to have those kind of offerings. And third is to have how you can really help to gain that whole momentum in terms of increasing the size. The first things we have seen in the customers when they buy our Enterprise Mobility Suite, as what has happened in the previous financial years of Microsoft, is that customers start with a smaller footprint. If it's a 10,000 sized organization, they would start off with the first 1,000, and then it eventually evolves to cover the rest of the base. And it's important, that's why we want to ensure that your engagement with your customer is strong, because the deal can go further and further, capture more and more of your customer's base. The other is also how well you are positioned. We have partners today in the room who have come from an acquisition. When a product acquisition is coming, they've built a very strong competency in that, and then they are now expanding the whole scope into the different parts of the whole Microsoft 365's offering. So you see the different kinds of partnership. We have partnerships with also other identity vendors like SailPoint, for example, which increases the scope of what EMS was doing traditionally and what is the value proposition coming out from SailPoint. It is building more auditing in that case. So there's a different range of offerings that are coming in. The point I was trying to make here is that, there is opportunity when you choose the platform and build a security practice. You can go deeper and deeper because of different partnerships. Ping, Lookout, SailPoint, for example. I'm just giving you 3 names that's on top of my head, but there are multiple more that you can have at your local level from a partner practice of what really helps to complete the entire journey of security for your customers. That's of your best interest to your customers. Now, that was an example of how you can look at building that part of it. The next I would actually like to look at is how do you really help to scale this? right? Where do you start? Where do you have this conversation? How do you want to actually take the best practices and then lead it with a storyboard so that it makes it very easy? A quick check of hands. Has anybody has anybody done business value with Office 365? Quick show of hands. All right. You will relate to this better. Anyway, for some of you who didn't raise your hands, my assumption is we would do this as an introduction. What we have done and what we have learned over the last 18, 20 months is that we really want to help to scale the right kind of selling it right. Selling it right means ensuring that we are driving the right value to the customers. The business value program is something that a partner can leverage on to bring out the right kind of customer pain points so that you can land the right kind of solution to your customers. What it does is it breaks it down into 3 parts, and that goes across the sales stages, which is basically understanding the customer's pain points, showing them how they can solve their pain points, and then proving it with a value, the dollar value or the value proposition by itself. So this kind of buckets into the sales stages or the journey that is there with your customer. The first part is actually the value discovery workshop. This is a classic example of how with having the right kind of a conversation with your customer can bring out the right kind of seeing what's the customer's pain points, how do they have that, what are their challenges, what's the customer's vision, where do they want to take their journey into, how do they build that whole things together. It's a set of how do you look in depth into the customers and then kind of capture it so that it brings out and spells out what is the next steps that they could do. The next section gets into CIE, which is the immersion. And the immersion cuts across Microsoft 365's immersion. So if the customer is looking more at driving more security kind of, if the customer is more tending towards, and you have basically discovered that he has a security interest to the value discovery workshop, you look at the journey of how you can drive, you can show and prove to them through demos, you can prove to them to any kind of proof of concept of what you want to do. So it goes from understanding to showing, and this is how you drive the value. It cuts across Microsoft 365, has a very strong section into demoing and having a very, very quick technical environment that's created for you to showcase all of that. The third is also then you want to bring it to some industry norms that, industry-based calculators, like you have different benchmarking done by industry, and that's where you prove the real value, the dollar value out of the value calculator that emerges out of it. What it all does is it reduces your pain, your sales architects and your pre-sales folks' pain in terms of selling the value, recrafting it again and again, and building a very unique proposition to your customers. So you can, as a partner, leverage the business value program to go deep and have those kind of conversations with your customers without really investing in building your own tools. And you can leverage this whole thing to give a very, very customized experience to your customers. And that's how it breaks into these 3 sections and really helps you to accelerate. The rest over there are really in the bottom of the slide is what you see is the statistics of really what we have seen over these last 18, 20 months of what has been our salespeople using this. In fact, our sales teams also use the same. So the platform that's available for partners is a platform that's also available with our sales team. Having said sales team, I also want to emphasize that as we're getting to FY18, you saw Judson yesterday saying that how we are organizing ourselves as Microsoft into addressing this whole new marketplace. We are making investments into going deep with our customers because what we have learned year over year is that when we speak security, the discussion goes technical very fast. So we want to raise the technical ability with all of you, and we know that, and internally at Microsoft, so that we understand the customers better. We speak the language of the industry, we speak the language of the customer, so that technically when we are there, we know how deep we can go, and we really take you in our journey. That is also built, all those thinking is also built in the business value program. a double click into what's a value discovery workshop, because this is the place where we will be capturing customer information. When we capture customer information, it goes back into 4 stages of the cycle that's built within the value discovery workshop. It's built on how we look at identifying, collaborating. This collaboration would mean that it's not a tool, but it's a collaboration is how do we build that direct connect of what the customer's pain points are, and then it kind of churns out the right kind of report. These reports are aligned to what kind of solution. So it pulls up the right kind of documentation, the right kind of PowerPoint slides, makes suggestions at the back end, saying that what is the next steps that you would want to do. And it all is machine learning based. So you will get a lot of these that are from the data that we collect and what comes out, and it's built into this whole intelligence over here. We're also making immense enhancements onto it. There's a July update. There is a FY18, that is our FY, the Microsoft FY. Your calendar years, I ideally should have put a calendar year out there, which makes it ideal to your financial year, in case. But what I want to give you an idea is how it aligns here to the increased investments that we are making. The first point out there is to show that as we roll this out into Microsoft 365, from 10 scenarios, we're going up to 18 scenarios to further cover all the Microsoft 365 environment enhancements. And few more other things. There's one more point over there also. I think it's a 4th bullet point. We said the customer success. Now, the customer success plan is also pre-built into the business value program. What it means is that from when you do the discovery and the time there is a deployment that is happening, which is the customer success, we want to ensure that this already captures and provides that. So when it gets to a deployment, you as partners, you would know that the customer's requirements are already there in terms of deployment. So we pick all those up from the stages when you're discovering, or what could be the journey for deployment. So it is an end-to-end kind of looking at from the customer's pain points to the end, what they want to go ahead and deploy. And further in this later part of this year, what's also going to come out is different customer segments. So it's not only just big enterprise, we are also ensuring that we capture and provide the right kind of value for small customers, for medium-sized customers. So that is another enhanced value that you would see that coming out for different customer sets. So it definitely doesn't mean that it has to only be large enterprise customers. It could also start opening up for different customer segments. So this is something that you as a partner, you can go ahead and leverage. It really helps you to start accelerating that kind of and reduces the pain that you may have sometimes with coming out with very unique proposals and having that. So that was about the business value program. The other part is also integrating how you can integrate with Fast Track. So Fast Track also is a service that is provided for any customer who makes the M365. They get they're the privilege. But then increasingly what we are doing is we are integrating a lot more cross-pollination and cross-integration of how you can further leverage Fast Track. There are a few more things that are coming out. You would hear you can get a lot more details as they come out in FY18 on Fast Track. There are enhancements that are there. It helps you not only for building but also for really accelerating on the depth engagement that you want to drive on top of what Fast Track does. Moving on, the other part is, as I was telling it earlier, important thing is how do you go ahead and build on your security practice. The security practice is super important because as we keep releasing all these new programs, the importance is that you should be in a right position for the C and C in my abbreviation, which is competency and capacity. Having the right capacity within your organization, that means having the architects, having the pre-sales people, having the deployment people, ensuring that it is aligned to those 4 pillars of what we defined earlier, and as you build your practice. The other part is selling it right. So when we have the selling it right, if you get into the business value program and leverage on top of it, you will definitely putting a lot of value in front of your customers, and that is the way that you want to drive and sell it right. The third is deployment. Deployment is key, and deployment is number one, and we want to ensure that our deployment is on top. So that is customer success, which is all about deployment. So these are critical out there. We have a ton of resources out there that we have for you, and we really want you to win with security. There are skills that you can really go and build. There is the Microsoft 365 different practices that are there. If you have missed out the book that was given out, a cloud practice book, I have one with me. Anybody who comes a little later, I have one with me over there. You can take the book. If you don't get hold of the book, you can go down to the GDPR. You have it at the security booth. She has many of them.
Yeah.
Finally, if you don't want to carry a book back home, it's fine. You can always have one URL, and you can download it on
It's called Cloud Security Playbook.
Cloud Security Playbook is right.
That's the URL.
Yeah. So that was for our section. If there are any other questions, please, there's a mic over here. We'll be happy to take questions. Otherwise, thank you.
And please review all the decks from these sessions, because these are focused on security and EMS. So even if you have not attended this session, please look at on the website, and you can download all the collaterals that are attached to them. Thank you.